Hi students, welcome to the first lecture of series of lectures on advanced distributed computing. In today's lecture, we will try to see what is the syllabus content of Mumbai University for SAME 5 MCA course. Then we will see what are the different modules in the syllabus, details of that modules we will see. Then we will see what are the reference books we have to study, assessment details, and then we will start the chapter 1, that is basics of distributed computing. So one by one we will cover all these points in today's lecture. The first point is definitely syllabus. So as per the syllabus, we have 4 theory lectures in a week. So every week we have to conduct 4 lectures. Then this is what the examination scheme is. Test 1 will carry the internal assessment. Test 1 will carry 20 marks. Test 2 will carry 20 marks, and we will consider the average of test 1 and test 2, that will be 20. And end semester exam will carry 80 marks. So total 20 marks for the internal test, and end semester exam will carry 80 marks, so total is 100 marks. Then we will see what are the details of the syllabus. In module 1, that is introduction to the distributed computing concept, we are going to study basics of distributed system. Then what is distributed system models, different kind of models we are going to study. Then software concept and issue in designing distributed computing, and client server model. These points we are going to study regarding the basics of distributed computing concepts. Then we will move to the next part, that is what the inter-process communication. In inter-process communication we are going to study what is the message passing is, that we will study. Then we are going to study some cases also, like IPC case, inter-process communication in Mac, then concept of group communication, case study of the group communication, especially in CBcast, that we will study. And then we will move to the remote communication. In remote communication, we will study what is remote procedure call, that is RPC, basics of remote method invocation, that is RMI, and a case study on the RPC, Sun RPC, and case study on the Java RMI. The next module is clock synchronization. In clock synchronization module, we are going to study what is global state mutual exclusion algorithm is, and what is election algorithm is, and 2 lectures are assigned to this module. Next one, distributed shared memory, that is DSM. In DSM, we are going to study what are the fundamental concept of DSM, then what are the types of DSM, then hardware DSM system, and different models of DSM, and issues in designing and implementation of DSM system. Total 6 lectures are assigned to the distributed shared memory, and this is important chapter. The next module is distributed system management and object-based system. This module contains resource management, process management, fault tolerance, then code migration, and Corva. So these things we will cover with the 9 lectures assigned to this module. We will cover in distributed system management and object-based system. In the syllabus of distributed computing, we are going to study 3 different concepts. First is distributed computing, basics of distributed computing. Then second one is a parallel computing, and the last one is a cloud computing. So total 3 concepts are mixed in this syllabus, and we are going to study all these concepts. Okay, so the next module, that is 5 number module, it is on the introduction to parallel computing, and it will carry 8 lectures. So it assign 8 lectures. In that we will study parallel computing, then scope of the parallel computing, then different characteristics of parallel computing, what is pipelining, what is control parallelism, scalability, topology, all these things we will cover in this particular module. And the last one, not last, the 6th one is advanced in distributed computing. In that we are going to study what is service oriented architecture, that is SOA, and what is the elements of service oriented architecture, what is RPC versus document orientation, that also we are going to study, major benefits of service oriented computing, these things we are going to study, then goals of composition, then challenges of composition, and spirit of the approach. So total 4 lectures are assigned to this 6th module. And the last one is fundamentals of cloud computing, cloud security and storage. Now this module is totally dedicated to cloud computing, and total 12 lectures are assigned to this cloud computing module. In that we are going to study what is cloud computing is, evolution in the cloud computing, cluster computing, grid computing versus cloud computing, characteristics of cloud computing. These things we will cover, and then we will move to the models. Now cloud models, for example, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, community cloud, shared private cloud, dedicated private cloud, all these things we are going to study in this cloud model. And finally we will move to the cloud security fundamentals and storage. Now what are the different privacy and security issues in the cloud, security architecture, data security, identity and access management, security challenges, then storage basics, now how the data is stored, storage as a service provider, different service providers of cloud computing, that we are going to study in this 7th module. Now next point is reference books. Now there are so many reference books, but 6 reference books are provided by Mumbai University. In that distributed operating system by Pradeep Sinha, PK Sinha, that is PHI publication. Distributed computing by Dr. Sunita Mahajan. This one is very good book. Seema Shah, Oxford University Press. I am referring these 2 books actually, PK Sinha and Distributed Computing by Sunita Mahajan, sorry. Then Distributed Operating System by Tenenbaum. Then Introduction to Parallel Computing, Ananta Grama and Vipin Kumar, Anshul Gupta. This one is also good book. Then Parallel and Distributed Systems by the Arun Kulkarni, Nupur Prasad. And the last one is Cloud Computing, Unleashing Next Generation Infrastructure to Application by Dr. Kumar Saurabh. Okay, so you can refer this 3 to 4 books. For example, Distributed OS by Pradeep K. Sinha. You can refer this one. Then Dr. Sunita Mahajan's Distributed Computing. Then you can refer for Parallel Computing. You can refer this book by Arun Kulkarni, Parallel and Distributed Systems. And for Cloud Computing, you can refer Dr. Kumar Saurabh's book, especially for the content of the cloud computing. The next point is assessment. There are 2 assessments. One is an internal and second one is an end semester theory examination. Already I have told you in the slide number 2 that you need to appear for test 1, internal test 1, and you need to appear for internal test 2. Internal test 1 will carry 20 marks and internal test 2 will carry 20 marks. And we are going to consider the average of test 1 and test 2. That is very clear. That is what the internal assessment is. Then end semester theory examination will carry 80 marks. Question paper will comprise of 6 questions. Question number 1 should be compulsory as always. All questions carry equal marks. Student can attempt any 3 from the remaining, and question will be mixed in nature. Means what? For example, question 2 has a part A from the module 3, then part B will be from any other module. Okay, so now we will start chapter number 1. And the chapter number 1 is Introduction to Distributed Computing Concepts. As we know, the syllabus of distributed computing in chapter number 1 especially, we have 3 parts. In chapter number 1, we have 3 parts. That is, part number 1 is on the distributed computing system basic concept. Part number 2 is on the IPC, the inter-process communication, and last one is on the remote procedure call, RPC. So in that last part, we will study what is the remote procedure call. One by one, we will study all these parts. So the first point is distributed system. Now what is distributed system? It is the collection of autonomous computers that are connected using a communication network, and they communicate with each other by passing the messages. So you need to understand this definition. Distributed system is nothing but is what? It is a collection of computers, autonomous computers, that are connected using a communication network. That means you can use any communication network, for example LAN, and they communicate with each other by passing messages. So you need to pass the messages, you need some software for that. So the important thing in this is that you need computers, they are connected using some network, and they communicate with each other by passing the messages, and that network is known as the distributed system. The next point is the different processors have their own local memory. They use a distribution middleware. The different processors have their own local memory means what? because this is a distributed system and it have autonomous computers. You can have multiple autonomous computers and they are connected using a communication network. So every processor which is connected to that network will have its own local memory, and they all will use a distribution middleware, that will be a software to communicate with each other. Next point is the distributed computing is a field of computer science that studies distributed system, and the computer program that runs in a distributed system is called as a distributed program. So the term distributed program is nothing but a computer program which runs on a distributed system. And what is distributed computing? Already I have told you the definition. The information, additional information is that it is a field of computer science that studies the distributed systems. Now see the diagram. In this diagram you will see computer number 1, computer number 2, computer number 3 and computer number 4. Every computer will have its own application, or two computers will share one application, something like application A, application B and application C. Every computer will share distributed system layer, that is what the middleware. And every computer will have its local OS, that is operating system 1, operating system 2, operating system 3 and operating system 4. And all these computers are connected with the network. Network can be anything, local network for example. So this is how the distributed computing system is created. You will have multiple autonomous computers, computer number 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will have own application. They must have a distributed system layer, that is what the middleware, and they can have their own local memory and operating system. So a distributed system requires concurrent components, communication network like this one. This is a communication network which connects different computers. Then synchronization mechanism. A distributed system allows resource sharing. You can share the resources including software by system connected to the network. So here we will stop, and in next lecture we will cover what are the different types of distributed system, different type of distributed models. Then we will cover the advantages and disadvantages of the distributed systems. Thank you very much.